I'm Sally Longford. I'm Vice Chair of the Green Partnership and involved in Nottingham Climate Assembly.
Please could you explain what the Nottingham Climate Assembly is and what the Vice Chair is?
The Green Partnership is the organisation which brings together 40 odd bodies from around the city to talk about how we're going to move towards a more sustainable future. And it includes all the big institutions like the universities, the council, the Environment Agency, various other bodies, and local businesses. And we have a quarterly meeting. I was given the role of vice chair of that, and I'm also, as I said, involved in the Climate Assembly, which has been organising the first Nottingham Climate Assembly, and preparing for it for the last few years. And I started doing that when I stepped down from the council.
Could you go into a little bit of detail about what it meant to be involved with that and hear people's voices of what they want Nottingham to look like in a more sustainable future?
Well, it was a very emotional couple of days for me because when I was deputy leader of the council and responsible for the environment, I used to have meetings with members of the public, and we'd ask them to come along to a public meeting, but I rarely got a cross section of the public in the room. I used to get lots of very keen environmentalists, but not the broader cross section of people. And so the idea for me was really important to have a proper sample of the population in the room to get their views, a consensus about what they wanted to happen in the future. And so we tried to put together an interesting programme for people so that people that didn't know much about the environment could get involved, but also people who had an interest in the environment already could be involved. And we raised money so that we could financially support people to attend, which would break down some of the barriers to people being there for 2 whole days. Um, so to hear the views that came out of it, the ideas that have come out of it, was just very inspiring, really.
For you personally, what would you like to see for Nottingham in 2036 when it comes to sustainability?
I'd like to see the Broad Marsh regenerated, but in a sustainable way, with the original plan, which I was involved with, had the green heart and green arteries running out to all different parts of the area, up towards the castle, up towards new housing developments, businesses, and I think if we can make that happen, it will be absolutely fantastic.
What initially inspired you to get involved with sustainability and what does that mean to you?
I've always been interested in the environment from when I was young. Um, I did a geography degree as a mature student in 1989, and I knew a little bit about climate change then. I knew it was a thing and it was happening, but I didn't know a lot about it. I learned a lot about it during my degree, and it motivated me to get much more involved. And I became a teacher, a geography teacher in the end. And I felt it was important to educate young people about what was happening to the planet. And then I became a politician, and I was very much involved in the law. I was the one that declared the climate emergency. I was the one that developed the CN28, the carbon neutral by 2028. I had a great team working with me, but it was my role to push that forward as a politician. And so, you know, when I decided that I no longer wanted to be a councillor, I didn't want to just give up on the environment. I wanted to continue to raise awareness and be involved in the climate movement, and that's why I'm involved in the Climate Assembly and why I'm involved in helping organise the Green Festival and things like that.
What do you think it means to have colleges and universities getting involved with sustainability?
I think it's really important, not just colleges and universities, but also schools.
Yeah.
I think, and this came out of the Climate Assembly. Lots of people, lots of the ideas that came out of the Climate Assembly involved teaching young people about how to grow food, where it comes from, how to cook their own food, and how to, to see that big sustainability issue, and to understand about climate change. So, I mean, I think we have to educate future generations from the beginning. We have to teach them about their environment, why it's important to look after it, why we all need to work together to a sustainable future, because it's their future. It's not
Yeah.
mine. It's my grandchildren's future. And I'm not going to scare my grandchildren. They're only 5 and 2.
Oh.
But I will be telling them about it. I will
Right.
be, I will be informing them gradually, and I'm already talking to them about the importance of bees and insect life, and you know that sort of nature in general. So I think it's absolutely vital that we keep plugging away the message that sustainability is the way forward for everybody.
What advice do you have to the younger generation and getting involved in sustainability? Why should they do it, and how can they do it?
Well, it gives you a healthier life. It gives you a life which doesn't depend on consumerism and having the next best thing that's out. It makes you think about, if you're into sustainability, then you can learn about how to grow your own food to enable yourself to be more self-sufficient. You can learn how to make your home more sustainable and therefore cut your bills. You can you can keep on riding your bike. I readily admit I don't ride a bike, because I gave it up in my 20s, and I never really felt I got back into it. I did ride it a bit in my 40s, but I fell off. That put me off. That was it. But if you keep doing these things from a young age, then life is cheaper and life is good and healthy. It's I think, what could be better than developing something like this and working with nature and enjoying nature. And I think the next generation can make a massive difference by helping us maintain the good things that we've got now, but also demanding more, demanding that things happen. Stand up and say, I want a green space in my neighborhood. I want my children to have clean air. It makes us all better. And it was very heartwarming that so many people, on the last day at lunchtime, I was chatting to different people, and lots of people were saying, I want to stay involved. I want to come to these decision makers and tell them what we want. I want to be more active in environmental stuff. It was really heartwarming that quite a lot of people felt. One of the reasons for me wanting to do it was to help enable people to take responsibility and get involved, and hopefully some of those people will now we say, oh, can we have a climate assembly in our community? If they go to church, or they're in a mosque, or they go to a community centre or a school or whatever, we can help them have their own climate assembly for their own community, where they can work out how they can contribute and make a difference. So it hopefully will have it will spread out, and we'll have a whole community of people who are more active, more understanding, more interested in what's happening around them, and more enabled to speak up. That's because if we can all sit at home and grumble
Yeah.
and get worried and anxious about things, but if we actually become more confident in speaking up and make our voices heard, we can all make a difference.